Hey everyone, I'm Kristen V. Carter, and this is the Trust Your Magic podcast, where I talk to people who trust their magic and inspire me to trust mine. Today, I'm here with a very special guest, a dear friend that I've known for years, and he is just blowing up in the game right now. Author, artist, filmmaker. Hey, Nick Brooks.
Yo. What's good, man? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's like weird being in front of the camera because you used to being behind the camera.
Yeah, it is. I've been getting back accustomed to being in front of the camera, to be honest. I mean, and you know me from whether it's doing music or, you know, getting into acting, doing commercials. And I got a funny story about how I actually got into filmmaking, which we'll get to, but it's actually started in acting. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Were you a DMV native?
I am, DC.
Okay. All right. So tell me when you first had the inkling that you wanted to be an artist.
Man, I'd say around 14, 15, probably 15 is when I dove here first, and it was rap, and it was like, okay, I want to be an artist. I love doing this. I love expressing myself. I love performing. I love writing. I think it was around then, and then it kind of grew. Yeah.
Okay, so when was like your first poem, or did you have like a rap book or anything like that?
Oh, for sure. I had a notebook. I still got some of them. You know what I mean? Like the old joint. The composition books, all of that, loose leaf paper, all of that I would, you know, hole punch or things I would try to go to the library and type up. You know what I mean? That type of shit. So, I mean, it started there for real. And I mean, I always had been a fan of rap. I think DMX was like the one that that I was listening to with my pops that as a little kid that really got me into it. And from there, I would be printing out his lyrics and printing out all these lyrics from different rappers and reading it. And to me, it really was poetry. And then, I mean, you know, just growing up in the city and writing about the things around me, writing about the things I saw. And then I got this high. I never forget the first time I went to the studio and recorded a record, and just like, did I have a CD player then? I don't even know. And then leaving there, walking to the train station and listening back to it over and over and over again, and just hearing my voice on it. And I don't know, you know what I'm saying? At that moment, I was hooked.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So you started out writing rhymes.
Started out writing rhymes. Okay. That was my entry into being a writer.
Okay. For me, it was poetry and also songs. Like I used to love music television, so I watched music videos.
I was watching The Box.
Yeah, I was absolutely
106
watching them.
Park.
Absolutely. Back in the day, that was actually Video Soul before 106 and Park. So I was like way back. And so for me, I always loved music. So I started out as well with poems and also songs. So that's really cool.
A lot of us do. I mean, you know, even becoming an author, and as I'm meeting other authors, particularly Black men, it's always starting in music and poetry and rap. Like that's always where it starts. So there's definitely something to that.
Yeah. So you said you had started recording yourself. How old were you then?
I was like 15.
Wow.
It was when the first time we recorded, and we did a record for 95.5. It was for what was it? It was like an ad for like drunk driving. Like I don't know. It was a weird thing. I forgot how we got that opportunity, but we were doing stuff in and around the city, little performances here and there.
Okay.
And I mean that was it. That was the dream, you know.
Yeah. So when you recorded, did you go to a studio?
Yeah.
Okay, because I have a story about that. I was recording on my Fisher Price, like real.
Oh, okay.
Like, I was recording radio shows on my Fisher Price, like telling my mom and my grandmother, like, listen to this. I would have a friend like sleep over, and I'm like, yeah, she can be like the sidekick, but really, you want to hear me.
Yeah.
So it's just so funny to hear like our origin stories, because so many of us, you know, had that inkling at a very, very young age, and just to just watch where you are now, it's just been incredible.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, definitely. So you started rhyming. Yeah. So when did you decide to put out like a first mixtape or CD or anything like that? What was that process like?
Yeah, it was around that same time, like 16, 17, and we had got a bunch of records, instrumentals. I mean, we did like a joint to like King Kong and like some Ludacris and like just you know, get all of these instrumentals that were hot at the time. 6 Minutes of Death, which is an old Cassidy joint. I remember that was like one of the highlight tracks. Just getting all of these different joints. We did something that Lil Wayne had to. I think it was I forget the Lil Wayne record, but yeah, we just got all these instrumentals, made it and put it out, and then that was it. And then, you know, and then college came about, and I ended up leaving the city, and other things started to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. So when did you decide that you wanted to move into film?
So when I left DC, went to Oklahoma, got hooked up with a guy named Tony Williams, who previously was in Good Music. And so we were working with Good Music, and we worked on, I think, a couple records. We wrote a couple records for his first joint on Good Music. And then I ended up having to leave Oklahoma, come back to DC. Basically, some things fell apart, because I was in the group. And so because I kind of had bounced around, I kind of fell out the group. And I guess it was at that moment, while I was in DC at Howard, is when I first got into film. Because again, I was looking for that outlet, trying to figure out, how I could use my creative voice. And so I got with some kids who were in the film program at Howard, and this is where I started acting. I didn't know how to make a film, didn't know the first thing about filmmaking, but I figured, even writing a script, but I figured, if I met some filmmakers, they could give me the game. And I didn't know how to meet filmmakers other than like try to audition for roles. I figured, if I become an actor, I'll audition for stuff, and then I'll meet people who do this, who make the movies. So I was at Howard. I did a couple of short films. PA'd on a couple like little, indie short films. And that was cool. But again, I didn't see the path, right? Same thing like with music, there's no like, rapper degree you go get to become a rapper. At the time, even though I was, kind of kikiing with these film students, it still wasn't something that I thought I could do myself. I don't know why. I just felt like, I had to be really practical. You know what I'm saying? I had to be a little more, I had to do something that I know I could graduate and get a career right away. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to play it safe, I guess, really. And so did that, but then trying to figure out, okay, what's my next step? Because I'm about to graduate college. I need to be doing something. And so I did a program called Teach for America. So I do TFA in DC. I'm working with kids. And it's a lot of pivots here, but like I started working with 5-year-olds. I was teaching kindergarten and first grade. And it was there where I started writing books, because I realized that like, the books that were in my classroom didn't have characters that looked like my students, didn't, feature communities that me and my kids lived in. And so I started writing books. It was a book series called The Adventures of Yanni. That was cool. That got me to Dallas, Texas, because what I started doing was consulting with my children's books, taking them to different schools, different charter networks, and I wrote a curriculum to go along with the books. And so I was doing consulting work and trying to teach like, culturally responsive classroom teaching to teachers. And so got out of TFA, was doing the stuff with Yanni books. And I think there was another moment. Oh, I know what it was. I saw Fruitvale Station and really connected with the film. And I remember like, doing my Google, seeing who made it. And I saw Ryan speak, or like I saw him in an interview or something like that. And it was much different than those film students that, you know what I'm saying, I was working with at Howard. It seemed more accessible. Just his story and everything seemed really accessible to me. I was like, oh, maybe I could go do that. Maybe there is a pathway there. Yeah. And so I was like, how did he get there? And saw that he, went to USC. And so I was like, bet, well, I'll just go to USC. You know what I'm saying? It's that simple. So, I did the application process, made my first short film. Literally, the first short film I made was the film to get into, to submit with my application to USC. So again, it was a lot of different pieces, different parts. I'm kind of speeding past, but all of that built up to that moment and me being like, oh, okay, maybe that is something I can do. And then so applied to USC, and then that kind of catches us up a little bit. Yeah.
So you have quite a journey. You mentioned Oklahoma. I was trying to keep up.
Man, I was moving around. That's what I'm saying. I was moving around. Yeah.
So when you moved to Oklahoma, was that before college?
That was for school. I went to Oklahoma University.
Okay.
And I only got into 2 schools. It was Oklahoma University or North Carolina A&T. And everybody was going to North Carolina from DC. They was going to North Carolina or Philly. And so it was like, I'm not going to do that. So I went to OU. And it just didn't quite work out. Again, trying to be practical. My mother was a nurse, so that's all I really knew. So I tried to like major in nursing. And
really?
Yeah, it didn't work out. That's why I ended up back home. But what happened was my mom worked. She was a nurse at the time. Like, man, God, it's crazy because like basically there was like, we can't like, you're gonna have to change a major or something. Like you can't continue down this path. Basically, I wasn't meeting the requirements. But my mom happened to work at the health center at Howard because she was a nurse. And so I was, I was telling like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I just hit my 2-year mark in the Howard umbrella. You can go here for free with remission. And so that's exactly what I did. So I just went back home and got to go to Howard, got to finish at Howard and just changed my major to psychology is what I ended up getting undergrad. And then, so.
Okay. There's so many different pieces of synergy that I'm trying to remember as you're talking about because I wrote a curriculum as well. I was a part of Breakthrough Collaborative, which is actually to a certain degree a feeder program for Teach for America. So it's students teaching students. So it's high school and college students teaching 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders.
What's it called again?
Breakthrough Collaborative.
Okay.
Yeah. So I taught there during my high school summers and also college summers. And one particular summer, my executive director was getting ready to leave, and he basically was like, "Do whatever you want to do." So I created their community service project. I did a culture day where folks came in with their parents, and then I wrote their graduation song, which was to the beat of Pimpin' All Over the World. I called it Learn All Over the World. So my kids were rapping and singing, and I'm like in the back crying. So I'm like, this is a really good song. I want to get this to Shaka. So I was like trying to figure out how to get to him. So I'm like, maybe I can do like educational. I was trying to figure it out at the time. So man, it's so interesting just some of the things that you've mentioned. And then also in terms of curriculum, I've written maybe 3 different programs. You know, there was a program I was trying to do with My Brother's Keeper in Jersey for a while. So it's just interesting to kind of hear some of that. Cause you know, it's like once a writer, always a writer, and you're trying to figure out where you're going to go.
Exactly.
But I want to know how you thought for a second you were going to be doing nursing. I mean, I know it's in your family, but like
literally that was it. It was just, I didn't, to be honest, and I can get on a whole soapbox about this, but it's all I saw. And this is why representation, and again, going back to even the moment I saw Ryan, right? It's like, that's all I saw. My mom being scrubs, she go work nights. You know what I'm saying? She was a nurse. Like that's literally, that was her life, was being a nurse to provide. So it's like, that's all I saw. My grandfather was a pastor. That's really all I really saw. My dad worked at at Amtrak on the railroad. He was cleaning trains. So it was like, the nurse was like the aspirational thing to do. You know what I'm saying? It was like, okay, cool. I guess I'll do that because I just didn't see anything else. And that's kind of how it worked out. And I think that happens a lot of times to a lot of kids where they go down a path because that's all they see, that's all they know. And then sometimes it works out, and sometimes it works out and they're miserable. Sometimes it works out and it works out, which is cool. And then sometimes it doesn't work out, or that doesn't work out, but you kind of find your alternate path. And luckily for me, I'm super nimble. Like I'm able to adapt really well because I've always kind of been we've always kind of moved around a lot. And so everybody doesn't have that flexibility. But for me, I think one of my biggest strengths to be here is my flexibility and being able to just like pivot. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, did you move a lot? I moved a ton when I was younger. So I went to over 10 different elementary schools before I ended up going to boarding school. I went to boarding high school, and then I was there 5 years, 8th through 12th grade. And then I went to college for 4 years. So I stayed in the same schools. But elementary, we were jumping around a lot. Was it the same for you?
100. Yeah, definitely. Like I jumped around a bunch of times. I don't think I ever spent more than a consecutive. I don't think I ever spent a consecutive 2 years at any elementary school.
Same.
I never did. You know what I'm saying? It was one that I almost hit. I was there for like a year and just some change, and it was in Maryland. And they found out that we lived in DC, and so they put me out to school.
Yo, I can't. So I went to Maplewood Middle School in the 7th grade. Well, we were supposed to be moving to Maplewood, and we ended up not moving. So we lived in Newark, and I went to Maplewood. And my mom ended up going, she couldn't take it at a point because it was starting to get obvious. So she went to the Board of Ed and basically said, hey, Kristen we live in Newark, and our plan was to move to Maplewood. Things didn't work out. And they allowed me to finish the year with a full ride.
Oh, wow. That's dope.
So, because we were honest. And it's funny, I talk about this with my mom all the time. There's so many things that parents are going to jail for now. And I'm like, yo, you would have been under the jail.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's so sad.
Just trying to help out and get a better education.
Just trying to get a better education.
Yeah.
That's simple. Trying to get send your kid to a little better school, and they not going for it. It's really tough. But anyway, so it wasn't until middle school and then high school that I spent some time, and then
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. So moving to LA and USC, were your parents, how did they feel? Like, you're telling me that you didn't see this and that folks wanted you to do other things. So when you came to LA, were they like, what are you doing? Or
I was just always pretty independent. So like even when I came back, it was like even when I came back to Howard, like I didn't live at home. You know what I'm saying? Even though my family was that's where I'm from, I didn't even live at home when I was at Howard. So once I left to go to OU, like since 18, I never just went back home. So they was pretty, and they just know me, you know, like I'm just. They was like, he's fine, you know. I did TFA and I moved to Dallas, got a job pretty quick with TFA, and I'm telling you, there's so many facets. Because what I did is I actually got into real estate. Because for me, this is the thing for me, again, being practical, right? And I was like, okay, I hate working for people, and I want to be an artist. I want to do whether it's music, whether it's film, whatever it's going to be. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I know I have to be able to support myself. I'm gonna have to be able to provide. So then, of course, you know, the buzzword of you know, passive income and financial freedom, all of this stuff is bubbling. What year is this? I forget, but it's not. You know, people are doing. It's a little bit after that, but I remember this one of the first big scams. Wake Up Now. I don't know if you remember that, but like everybody is trying to seek finance. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not a bit. You know, I know how things work. If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. But for me, the kind of path I saw was real estate. I was like, yo, real estate, I think, is the thing that can get you that freedom. So let me do that to get a base, and then I can move to LA. Okay. And so that's exactly what I did. So like, you know, my mom, she was like, oh, he's good. He's completely good. But so I did that in Dallas for a little bit. And then over the span of like a year and a half, and then I moved to LA, and they was straight.
So there's a running through line of just like being an entrepreneur that's like very obvious to me. So did you grow up with any entrepreneurs, or you just had that fighting spirit that was just independent? I was an entrepreneur for sure. I was with I was selling like True Religions in college and like antique dinners. I was in the like fast, because in high school I worked for this, do you remember Up Against the Wall? Yeah. Okay, so it was like, I was like a high school kid working at Up Against the Wall on Howard's campus. Okay. So I thought I was the man, you know what I'm saying? And we was real into like fashion and all of that from a distance. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so, I had tons of hustles. I'm not even gonna talk about all of them. But I was always hustling for sure. Yeah. Yeah, okay, wow. So you come here to LA and you come out with a film, and then what happens?
So come to LA. Go to USC. Through USC, I meet a bunch of people, you know, made a bunch of more films. I got an internship. I worked at Spring Hill Entertainment, which is LeBron James and Maverick Carter's company, which was really dope, because that's where like I met a bunch of people that, you know what I'm saying, that just are good allies to this day. Did that and wrote a script, which was cool. One of the biggest things is too, I met my co-writer and my producing partner. You know, that was really dope. Just going to USC and meeting, again, you're put around and they tell you that they're like, yo, the people you're gonna meet here is like, that's the real part, right? Yeah. So met him, that was dope. And then 2020, I graduated. And also everything shuts, you know what I'm saying? The world stops. So all of that happened in 2020. So okay.
So I want to rewind a second. Do you remember when we met? I try to piece this together because I feel like, did you intern at BET at all?
Oh, I know what it was. No, I know when we met for sure. It was because I was helping a fellow filmmaker, Stephen Chu, on a project. I used to love her. I was his AD, which, to be honest, if I'm being frank, I didn't know what an AD was at that time. I really didn't. I had just started at USC. I knew what a director was, right? And I think for both of us, to be honest, me and Steve, like we both were neither one of us really knew what AD was, and we were thinking, if you know how to direct, then you'd be a good AD. But there's such different, they're just such different skill sets, and you know, you're flexing your brain in very different ways. So I didn't know, but that's exactly where we met.
Yeah. Okay. For some reason, I thought we knew each other from the East Coast. Like, I feel like I
know my man BJ.
When you, what's that?
You say you know my man BJ.
BJ last name?
What is BJ last name? His first name is Barry.
Are you talking about Barry McCain?
Yes.
Barry McCain.
He interned at BET with you. That's what I'm saying. You know my man. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Barry McCain.
We talked about this.
Total personal story. So Barry McCain was older than me when when he was interning, because I came out of school at 21, started writing for the Black Carpet. Yeah. So all of our interns were always like a year, maybe just a year or two older than me.
Yeah.
I had the biggest crush on Barry. And so he would, like, when I was coming out of school, I was also trying to like find a friend circle. So I would invite people to places. Barry would show up all the time. Shout out to him. So it's so crazy.
We talked about that
because
before.
he ended up going back home and made the decision that he wasn't going to be in television. And that broke my little heart. Not even from a personal standpoint, but I met so many people through the years that just decided they weren't going to do TV. I was like, wow, you really have great promise in this. And, we just keep in touch on Facebook, but I didn't make that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, no, we talked about that.
Okay. Yeah. So when you got settled in LA, I remember us having a conversation, and this might have been around the time you were at Spring Hill.
Okay.
And you were telling me about your projects, and I was pretty much like, I'll give you my whole Rolodex, which is very rare. Like every so often I meet people and, I just think in LA now, you just learn to be close to the vest with everything. But there was just something about you that I was just like, man, you're really dope, number one. But number two, like you going to go someplace. So you might have a script that they want. Let's just see what happens. I even remember like Mass Peel and stuff like that, just trying a few things and just sort of throwing things at the wall. And then all of a sudden we're in COVID and I see this announcement about your book. And I'm like, where did this come from? So just explain to me your transition from, film to then making the decision to write a book.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, like you're totally right. It's 2020. Everybody's meeting everybody. People are like, I'll take your meeting on Twitter, right? Announcing it on Twitter. Everybody trying, like, it was crazy. And also people were like, anxious and bored, and there was all these things that happened. So it was going crazy. And you're totally right. Like you really tapped me in. And what happened? And things just wasn't really budging for real.
Yeah.
Which of course they weren't. Everything was shut down. Like nobody, you're not about to sell a script or it's literally everything shut down, right? So basically what I did was I hit my co-writer up and we started writing. We just started writing. It was like, well, if nothing's moving, let's just start writing, right? And I did two things. I did that. I did the books, and then I started working back on music. But so we started writing, and there was a script that we have, and we wanted to figure out where the rights were at because it was based on an old comic book. And so we sent it to his book agent because he's also a novelist, and she really like vibed with it and I'm imagining he really like hyped her up and was like, "Yo, this dude Nick is tough." Like, and so she was like, "Oh, I'd love to meet him." And so we met, and she was like, hey, would you ever consider writing books? I was like, 100%. Like, I was writing children's books. She was like, what about novels? I was like, 100%. Again, me at the time, like, I'd do anything. Like, I'll tell you, I got some other funny story. I was writing all types of shit. I was writing like erotica for different apps. Like, I was literally writing anything I could get my hands on. Yeah. And so same situation. She was like, would you be down to write a novel? I was like, yeah. So she basically connected me with a book packager who basically what they do is take concepts. I mean, they do a lot of different things, but in my particular case, it was a woman who, her company's called Cake Creative. She had some concepts and she's from DC and she was an educator. And she was like, yo, what I really been trying to crack is like a murder mystery at a school. Is that something you'd be down to like take on? And so we spent like maybe, again, I was like going. So not very long to develop enough of a thing for her to submit to her agent or whatever. And they was like, yeah, we like this direction. Like, proceed basically. And so I wrote like the first 25 pages, sent that in. It was like, yeah, this is dope. Keep going. I wrote the first 50 pages, sent it in. It was like, this is dope. Then I wrote the first 100 pages, like, all right, cool. We need to take this out to market. We took it out to market. It was a big bidding war.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? So it really just came out of that hunger and trying to just figure out, okay, I got to make something shake. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Through all these transitions, what have you learned about yourself? Because you are moving. Like,
yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think I'm still learning, still processing. Everything's happening kind of fast. Like when it happens, it just, it's happened kind of fast. But I don't know. I mean, again, flexibility. I've always kind of known that I'm really, really flexible. Vision is another thing. I think I'm starting to maybe think, oh, maybe I have vision. I'm also like, I like to think I'm a pretty humble dude. So for me, it was always about putting in the work.
Yeah.
And maybe just recently, I was just telling probably somebody else, Carlton Jordan.
Yeah,
it's my guy. We was out, got lunch or something. And I was just telling him like, yo, also for the first time, I'm like, maybe I have some talent. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not something that you kind of just say to yourself, like, oh, I'm talented. Like, or at least me, it just never was like a thought. So I'm starting to become comfortable with that idea. Like, oh, maybe not even necessarily just talent, but purpose. You know, like maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? Because it's coming like this. Maybe writing is what I'm supposed to be doing. So, I don't know, a bunch of things, but again, definitely still learning and still growing.
Yeah, two things. When you had your last book signing for Promise Boys, Carlton asked you how you felt about all of the attention. And I remember we ended up having a conversation about that kind of at your celebration where I'm like, yo, just keep your head down and do the work, because I think what makes you different is you're unconventional and you're not thinking inside a box. Sometimes I feel like we're in an industry that it says, go this way, do this. You think like you've done everything the right way, and then you still don't have the freedom that you want creatively. So when I look at you and just like the buzzing, just the energy that I pick up from you is like, there's something always churning. And I think that being in an industry that sort of says, well, this isn't going to work, that's not going to work, this isn't going to work, it tempers other people in a way that you just seem...
I was like, fuck it. I'll go do this. We'll figure it out.
It's so awesome. So awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
How did you even fit family in? I mean, you're married, you have two beautiful daughters. Like, how did you even fit that in while your world is like spinning with all this writing and creativity?
The biggest thing is like, my wife is just tough. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's just tough too. Because that's kind of the answer. Because I was doing a bunch of stuff. Because I mean, not to even try to like, I'm not even trying to gas it no more. But because I think you already know this. But like at the time I was writing and finished the books, I was also working on Mandalorian. You know what I'm saying?
I remember the whole thing.
So it was like 14-hour days.
Yeah.
So it was really crazy. But she just held it down like in a big way. And then the other thing that really helped is like getting my in-laws, right? Like they were in San Diego, and we told her mom, like, yeah, just retire. And she was like, of course, worried. And we was like, don't worry, like we'll, anything we gonna help you because you're gonna help us. So now her parents live 2 blocks from us. You know what I'm saying? Her mom comes over every day, and it's like, so just really trying to build community and tribe.
But there's something different about vision, because to have in-laws say, we're going to move, we're going to do this, they see it for both of you in a different way than I think most people would. That's number one. But number two, I would say, even for young people today that are like dating, so even before you got married, I don't know that a lot of people would still say, you know what, I'm looking to accomplish my dreams, but I also want to be partnered. So like, what was going through your mind, if you don't mind my asking?
Yeah, I mean, we got partnered early, you know what I'm saying? So we met just before TFA. This is going back to DC, but we met in TFA.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, yo, this is a beautiful woman. Like, I'm gonna take my shot. Like, I don't know. I just, for me, it was just like, I've always kind of, to be honest, just been like a little bit of a wife. My wife called me a wife and ass nigga. Like, like that's what she said. She's like, nah, you one of them. Cause that's just how that's just the type of guy I was. Like being around a woman, I guess. I don't know. And she was smart. For me, to be honest, I felt like off the bat, I felt like she was out of my league. Which, so it was like, oh, bet. Like, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't hard for me to be like, okay, I'm in this. And then again, thinking like not even gonna lie, thinking like, yo, like within 6 months, I was like, yo, you should move in. Because that's going to help with rent and all the other expenses. Right. You know what I'm saying? And then let's save our money. Oh, here's another thing is how she trusted me. Right. And I don't know how she would feel about me saying this, but like within that time, I was like, yo, I got a plan. Right. And do you trust me type shit? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, give me this, give me this percentage of your check every month. And she did it. You know what I'm saying? She was with it because she saw the plan and saw the vision, which was the real estate. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, look, we're going to do this and we'll move to Texas where it's cheap and data. Like I laid out the whole shit. And she was like, okay, cool. So she trusted me. She was a good teammate, a good partner. So it was an easy call. You know what I mean? But
you had intention. So that's clear to me. Yeah. I feel like if somebody were to outline, I've never experienced that. So if somebody was to outline something, maybe I would get part of my check.
Yeah. I mean, again, she'd be a better person to cause like to be honest, I'm curious how she felt. Like I'm curious how what her mind was doing at that time. But I know it worked because she was like 100%. Let's do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like that part that just kind of came. I mean, again, that was a minute and a fast forward all the way to now. It's just like life happens, and it was like this is the goodest time as any to have kids. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, fast forward to 2023. You have 2 books out.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
It feels cool, man. Like I'm still trying to get the TV, you know what I'm saying, film thing popping. It's cool. It's like it's moving. You know what I'm saying? It's moving. Every day is moving. Some days are better than other days, right? I'm sure you know it's like some days you feel like, okay, it's moving. Some days you feel like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? So it's always that doesn't go away, or maybe it does. I mean,
I don't think it goes away.
Yeah, you know, so it feels good and it feels cool. It feels like I'm doing what you know what I'm saying? It feels like I'm working, you know what I'm saying? Like, which is dope, you know, it feel, you know, but I'm not sitting in it too much. You know what I'm saying? I'm still constantly moving, trying to do the next thing. Like you said, keep your head down, keep working. And which may work for some people and may not work for others. You know what I'm saying? Definitely, that's another thing I'm trying to learn and grow into is like taking the time, you know, to appreciate and living in the moment, like all these little things to help, you know, calm you really. So it's all a learning process, but it feels cool.
Awesome. And yet and still, you still released a project recently, music wise. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So I released three EPs in the last 3 years, right? Like I started in 2020 back picking, you know, rapping, just like, okay, what am I gonna do? And it was a trilogy of sorts, you know, I go by Ben Kenobi. It's this whole like Star Wars through line through a lot of the, like my whole life really. So I go by Ben Kenobi. So the first project was The Return of the Jedi. The second one was A New Hope. Or I'm sorry, the second one was Empire Strike Back. And then this latest one was A New Hope. That came out like early February. And so that was cool too. You know, it's like that's the fun part.
Yeah.
You know, that's the really fun part. It's like you doing what you're doing now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, put the work down, let me go decompress. And that's how I decompress and that's how I have fun. And it's like, it's cool. You know, it's also cool now because it's like there's not the pressure on it that it once was. You know, when it was like, oh, this has to be the thing to take me out of here. It was so much pressure and and also embarrassment because like it's so crazy for us in our culture. The people we like literally look up to the most are rappers. But if you're an aspiring rapper, don't nobody don't nobody care. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting how the culture like treats the guys who that's what they want to do. And so that comes with sometimes embarrassment, shame, like all of these different things. As maybe any artist, right, who feels like, oh, they're trying to be an artist and you kind of feel like your peers are looking at you a certain way if it's not hitting the, you know what I'm saying, the way it's supposed to look, right? Or you think it's supposed to look.
Yeah.
But now it's none of that because I'm doing a bunch of other stuff. So you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's fun. And the other thing that got me thinking about again, when you think about the entrepreneur side is just like, as I'm doing the TV and film and having a track record recent, you know, to be able to prove that I can manage doing music and with any of the, you know, projects that I'm doing. So it all kind of goes hand in hand, but came out with that. And that's been cool too. I mean, people who really enjoy rap, like to hear me rap, which is cool. Cause again, I don't need a bunch of people listening. It's just really for me and my friends, you know, and people I know who like what I do, you know?
Yeah, no, I remember at the celebration, you were like, man, this book's coming out, but this music though, like this music is coming out. Like, all right.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you go to bed at night, is your mind just buzzing or do you wake up in the middle of the night and write? Like, it almost feels like words are just sort of flowing all the time.
Yeah. No, I mean, sometimes I wake up every now and then, you know what I'm saying? But I think I could cut it off and, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I sleep and I wake up and like you said, sometimes there's a bunch of ideas on the brain or a lot of times I actually will like dream, you know what I'm saying? I'm either dreaming usually like lyrics, rap, or I'm dreaming a thing that's like, seems like it could be a good story, you know? So sometimes that happens, but it's pretty chill.
Okay.
It's pretty chill.
Well, this podcast is all about trusting your magic, and it feels like you've done that quite a few times.
Trying to.
So I would ask you, you know, what have been your most significant leaps of faith, and how have they shifted your life?
Man, that's a great question, and I think the big two for me. One was the move from DC to Dallas, right? Because people sometimes are afraid to just move, to just go somewhere and just do it, right? And so with I'll give one caveat. And both times, because I was gonna say the second one was moving to LA and going to USC. I guess moving to LA is kind of 1A or 2A, and then USC is 2B, because when we moved to LA, we were not yet accepted into USC, but we knew that the industry was here, and so we'd have to be here anyway. So they weren't exactly connected, but in a way they were. But anyway, both times moving from DC to Dallas and moving from Dallas to Los Angeles, again, it's like it's like three different things. It's the art, it's the entrepreneur, but then again, it's the practical side. So both times I moved, I made sure I had a job first. You know what I'm saying? Like, I made sure I had a job. And again, I'm not really big on like systems, institutions. I'm not a rule follower, right? So I'm like, don't care if I quit in 3 months. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not really stressed about that. Though some things that I hear people be stressed about, it's like, man, I don't really want to get a job, because just quit the job when you ready to quit. Like, they would fire you if they needed to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not really worried about a lot of those things. But so with that caveat, because sometimes people can get, it could get more sticky. But yeah, moving to Dallas from DC was the first thing. Then moving out here, and then going to USC was like, am I really going to grad school? And like, it's a very expensive program. Not to mention that, like, my wife was also at USC at the time. I went to the TV film production program. She did the Peter Stock producing program. So now we're both going to school in Los Angeles. Huge student debt. Like, if it's a gamble, you know what I'm saying? But both times it paid off, you know what I mean? So I guess that's that faith you're talking about. It's just like, just following your instinct, your gut instinct. Like, yo, this feels right. You know what I'm saying? I think maybe that's another part of it too, is faith. You know what I'm saying? And just knowing and having discernment, because you are connected to your higher power, and just knowing what feels right and what feels wrong,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny. Bree Frank and I talk about you quite often.
Yeah, that's the homie.
And she always says, man, Nick was in my office. I knew he was going places. Like, you better just leave his office, because I can see it. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's crazy.
Obvious when folks are serious, and not just about their craft, but I think just about life and being intentional and purposeful, asking questions, moving. And you've always been that way, and always so like tried and true.
Yeah,
so
I appreciate
that's why I like, absolutely. I said, you gotta be here, because I just respect your movement so much.
Oh, thank you.
And
so
it's
much.
just so nice as a friend to just witness. I'm like, I'm gonna buy all the books, and I was like, how can I get this into North Public Schools? Because my mom is in North Public Schools, and I emailed her. So we're still trying to figure out like, how do we just get books to the kids?
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it. I really do appreciate the words of wisdom. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the you putting your name and reputation online and connecting with so many folks, and just being there. I mean, it feels good, and it keeps me motivated. And likewise, I want to do the same, in any ways that I can. And again, like we was talking about before the cameras came on, like, it's all coming together. Like, whether it's me and you, or you and Blue Butterfly, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's just all cool to like see us all moving in this quote unquote class. You know how they got these different classes that come out. So it's dope. I'm excited, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I'll say is that I also appreciate you just keeping the vision alive, because so many people give up because we don't have the answers. You got to live your way to the answer. And even when you find that answer, you got to find another answer. It's like, you're never going to get the right thing. It's always evolving. And so it's just, I appreciate it because it's motivating for me. And there's so many people back home that I know when I talk to, they're like, man, you're making it out there in LA. And you don't think about it until you have those types of conversations. But I'll say, like, from one East Coaster to another, like, I admire you, I respect you, and I'm just like elated for everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And likewise, like I said, likewise, this is just the beginning for us. So buckle up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So where can the people find you?
You can find me at my website, the Nick Brooks, nickbrooks.com, Instagram, official Nick Brooks, Twitter, who is Nick Brooks, or you can just Google Nick Brooks, you know what I'm saying? And you'll find me.
Absolutely. And for those who don't know, I've been having these 2 books here. I'm going to shout them out. The 2 books out that are out are Promise Boys, and also Nothing Interesting Ever Happens to Ethan Fairmont. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them at your local bookstore.
Yeah.
I went to Octavia's bookstore the other day. Pretty much every time I go to a bookstore,
Yeah.
I take a picture. So I'm like, look at Nick, just moving. But make sure y'all go out and get a copy and support. And so much love to you and your family.
Oh my God, much love. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So this is another episode of Trust Your Magic. If you liked what you listened to or watched, please subscribe, and we will see you next time.